So let's start setting up Webpack. There's going to be two modules that we're going to need. We're going to need Webpack and the Webpack CLI. Notice that these are chained with a save dev flag. We're going to use that because we're going to actually switch things around so that we're really only going to need to precompile in really development mode. Let's go to the application here real quick, and let's pull out all of this precompiling. We're really not going to end up needing it anymore. And let's just take this out up here. And what I'm going to end up doing here is I'm going to install Webpack and the Webpack CLI. There's going to be a couple of other things I'm going to need as well. And again, I'm going to save them as a dev file. And what this does is just puts it in a separate place in the Webpack config. When you deploy, it'll still get deployed, but those dependencies will end up getting removed, at least by Heroku, because again, you don't necessarily need them after the app ends up getting deployed. I'm going to get both these modules. And just to show you, if I do a cat package.json, I'm going to see my start dev. And I'll see that these are dev dependencies. Some of these I'm going to be able to move out as dev dependencies as well. Let's leave them there for a minute. What I'm going to end up doing here is I'm going to go into my package.json. And for starters, I'm just going to put a Webpack thing here. I could call this whatever I want to, by the way. But I'm just going to tell it to run Webpack. And it's kind of special when you end up running it through NPM, and I do npm run Webpack, it'll find the Webpack that I ended up installing. If I just run Webpack here, it's not going to work, but npm run Webpack will actually find it because there's a bin file that ends up getting created under node modules. So when I end up doing npm run Webpack, it'll end up running Webpack. And one of the things it's going to say by default, Webpack is going to look for a source folder for our files. So I actually wanted to use a different entry point. So I'm going to actually have to set up a configuration. I'm going to touch Webpack config.js. And I'm going to go over here and start setting this up. So this is a JS file. Again, this is happening through Node. So this is going to be a module.exports. And I'm going to specify that the entry into this file is going to be / and this is going to be client app.js. So Webpack should end up picking up the changes there. Okay? But I have a different problem. Webpack doesn't really know about the fact that Babel is involved in the whole process. I have to tell it, hey, look, Babel's going to help me do this compiling. So the way that this is done, and again, you can find this under the site as well, is that you set up a module, and you have to specify rules. And the rules say, what files are you interested in compiling? You can have separate rules for different types of files. We need to put a test here to say, hey, look, if you encounter, once you end up getting in here, if you encounter a file that ends with JS, that's a regular expression, we want you to end up using a loader, which is going to be the Babel loader. So we're going to have to install that as well. So we're going to use the Babel loader. And if I end up doing that, I'll run into a different issue. It's going to say, I don't know anything about the Babel loader. So let's install it. Again, this is going to be a dev dependency. Run this again. Okay. Now we're going to be back to our same issue here, that it's not going to understand this. There's a couple of ways to do this. What I'm going to end up doing here, it's very similar to what we ran when we were doing things on the server, but this is going to be done with configuration. Again, because this is running from this command line tool here. And what I'm going to end up doing here is I'm going to put a Babel key here. And the Babel loader will look at this Babel key. And I'm going to say, hey, Babel, since you're doing the compiling, could you use the presets? And this is just the same thing we set up before, which is going to be the Babel React preset. We installed that already, so it should end up finding it. We actually have it right here. Now, if we run this, it'll end up compiling our code, but it's going to put it in a different output here. If we go and take a look at this, we'll see by default, it doesn't end up putting it in assets. It puts it in this dist folder, and it ends up calling it main. So let's see how we can set the output for that. So here we're going to end up using this output. We're going to have to give it a file name. Again, we want it to call ours app.js, and we want to put it in the assets folder. Let's go over here. Again, this is back to our Webpack config, and we'll put an output, and the file name is going to be app.js, and here we're going to use the, what do we call it here, the path, and I'm going to use path.join. That's what I usually use. I think that should work. We're going to use directory name, and this is going to go into the assets folder. And let's just bring in path, because we're going to need path. Let's run this one more time. And this will actually run. And just to show that it'll end up running, let's go back and start our app. And let's just test out if it's still working here. Right? It still seems to be working. Even if we went here, let's just get rid of a few things here. We don't need this dist folder. Let's get rid of it. But if I go into the assets folder and I delete this, it's going to be gone. Won't end up finding that. But if I end up just running my Webpack again, that file will end up getting created. And I actually have to start my server again. Sorry. npm run start dev. Now if I go back here, I'll be back in business.